So yesterday I showed you guys how I had a bad crop of coffee that I roasted, and there's a lot of Quakers inside of it. So today we're going to be brewing up and tasting the difference between what the Quakers are and what the good coffee tastes like. So we're going to taste the difference and see how they brew out, weigh them, and then we'll talk about them. So we're starting with the Quakers, and then we've got ourselves the real beans that we want to be using. Now, keep in mind that I actually selected the Quakers out of the same batch of coffee that's on the right. Now we're going to weigh them, and you're going to notice that this is 77.1 grams of Quakers. Now compared to the good grinds that we're going to be looking at, as we weigh it, you're going to notice that it's actually a little bit heavier. It's 87.6 grams. So for the same amount of volume, you actually have more in the richer coffees versus the Quakers. And if it wasn't apparent enough before grinding it, this is it after ground. You can see that the Quakers, there's a lot more on the walls. Those show the microfines being stuck there. Those are just static particles. And the color now is a lot more clear, that they're very different in color. So the first thing I wanted to do is actually talk about the smell of the coffee. You might have noticed that there was a lot more fines stuck to the sides. So this kind of proves my point on how there's a lot more fines in the Quakers. And then on the other thing is the smell is, it's very nutty. It's not very complex. There's not a lot of acidity to it. It just smells very nutty. And from an eye level, you can actually see that there's actually just more fines in it than this one. I'm not going to remove the fines because it's a little bit of a hassle today. But this one smells like fruits. It's got the floral smell to it. It's a very traditional Ethiopian coffee. Like I said, this is a good coffee. There's really not a lot of defects. There was like maybe one or two kind of bad coffee beans within the whole like 2 kilograms. So the grading isn't too far off. It's just it had a lot of Quakers. So let's brew it up and see how they taste. Now, as we brew the Quakers part, I wanted you guys to see how everything is floating on top for a little bit longer. It took me a lot of effort to kind of push everything down with the movement. And then once you stir, everything just sank really quickly. So it clogs very fast. There's not much gases given off. And then even on the second pour, even with this kind of brewing method as a quicker one, it still took about 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And then now as we get into the kind of like the nicer coffee, the good stuff, when we brew, you're going to notice that there's just more gases being released, and then it takes a little bit longer to kind of, or less time to sink everything, and it brews really nicely. So this is what I'm used to. But yeah, let's get into the tasting. Okay, guys, so here we have the two different brews. One of them is the Quakers. This is the one with the Quakers in the pink cup, and then in the purple cup, we've got ourselves the actual coffee that we're looking for, that we've separated out. So I'm going to pour a little bit into the two glasses so we can actually take a look at the color difference. Love making a nice little mess. So first things first, in terms of coloration, there's not too big of a gap. The Quakers one is a little bit lighter in color. It feels a little bit thinner. And then the real coffee is supposed to be a little bit darker and richer in color. Now, obviously I didn't brew them like identically or perfectly. I probably could have done a better job. I'm just testing a new place to brew. I'm kind of brewing on the floor. It's not so good on my back. I probably won't be doing this again. But if I had poured a little bit slower, I'm pretty sure it'll be a little bit richer in color. Now anyways, that's not too big of an importance. Let's do a taste test. Just from the fragrances alone, they smell very, very different. This has a lot more floral notes. It feels a lot more rich. It's a lot more fruity. And then this one smells a lot more kind of like nutty, and maybe some black tea to it. Oh my God. That is gross. So this, anyways, this is just really flat, really nasty. Ew. It's really nutty. It has like almost like a very woody undertone. So it's like the body is more like a lighter black tea, and then there's like this like nuttiness. It almost tastes like the skin of the peanuts. Have you guys ever had, if you ever had like peanuts with like the bit of skin on it, imagine just a ton of that skin kind of like in your mouth. And then on top of that, there's like this like dark herbal, rooty kind of woody flavor to it. This is disgusting at best. I'm not even exaggerating. That was a very natural reaction. It was gross. If you guys ever try this, yeah, that was disgusting. So this is a really good cup of coffee. It's really clean. We've got all the floral notes that we're looking for. We've got all the fruity notes we're looking for. This is quite an excellent cup of coffee. So if I could imagine putting these two together, I mean, obviously, like the ratio wouldn't be 1-to-1, right? I probably removed about 5% of my beans as a Quaker. It's not like a lot, but it's a decent amount. 5% is quite a bit. You do not want 5% of your coffees to be Quakers. And then there's this. So if I were to have like 95 and like 5% of that, that's still kind of a disgusting ratio. I would not wish that upon anybody. That was a nasty coffee. So the conclusion is this is a very tasty coffee. It's very good. It's been elevated back to the level I expected it to be at. If you guys aren't fully up to date, this was supposed to be an 83-point Ethiopian grade 1 Guji. This is a very high grade coffee. Unfortunately, the sample and what actually came in was very different. I had a lot of Quakers come in. It doesn't taste good at all. I've never tasted Quakers on its own. It's disgusting. Yeah. So you do not want this. For anyone that buys from this batch of beans, well, I mean, I'm not selling it on my website. It was actually ordered by another client. But for all of his coffees, I will be hand removing all of the Quakers and every bean that I think is like subpar. They're just not good. I already had a talk with the producer. I had a talk with my importer. They're giving a small refund because I don't want to ship it back. And it's not like the good beans taste bad. The good beans taste great. Okay. It's just, there's a lot of bad beans that I want to get rid of. And so I got to put in extra work. You know, I do that for every one of my coffees. If there's not so many good coffees or if there's little defects that I can spot after the roast, I try to remove them while they're cooling. So I always have one of the cleanest cups of coffees out there. So thank you guys very much for watching. I actually hope you guys learned a lot. I mean, it was really fun for me to kind of do this test. If I were to compare like microfines and Quakers, microfines don't taste as bad as Quakers. Quakers taste really bad. Microfines, well, we'll try again. Yeah, why not? I have a new microfines video coming up next in a couple days. I've collected enough fines for us to do a very good taste test. So yeah, amazing. You guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye!